תפילת האדם. O Lord, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
We pray that these things never end, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Oh,
these are the things that keep us, that keep us going. And now, those who have candles with them, I'm going to light the Shabbat candles here. And anyone else who wants to light candles at the time. And then Anita will sing the bracha after I say.
So cool. Do it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We praise you, our God, ruler of all, who makes us holy with commandments, and all the sacred commandments, and this one, to bring light to the Sabbath. Anita?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
The one thing that unifies us, the most sacred teaching that we have is Shema. Coming from Deuteronomy, these 6 words that bring unity to us, but start with the importance of listening, ending with the word one, which brings us together. And so here we are, that we acknowledge the oneness of God. Anita?
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed.
Hear, O Israel, the eternal one is our God, the eternal God alone. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Amen.
As we started the service, we sang Shabbat Shalom, and as we greet each other, we say Shabbat Shalom. Shalom is what brings us together. The word Shalom means complete wholeness. Shalom is the peace. And so Anita is going to share with us now the beautiful rendition of Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
With that peaceful moment, let's each in our own way take a moment of quiet, silent prayer, connecting with God and connecting with the spirit of our heart, each in our own way. A moment of silence. May the Lord protect and defend you. May he always keep you from shame. May you come to be in Yisrael a shining name. May you be like Ruth and like David. May you be deserving of praise. Strengthen them, O Lord, and keep them from the stranger's ways. May God bless you and grant you long lives. May the Lord fulfill our Sabbath prayer for you. May God make you good husbands and wives. May he send you loved ones who will care for you. May the Lord protect and defend you. May he always keep you from pain. Strengthen them, O Lord, with happiness and peace. Oh, hear our Sabbath prayer. Amen. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be a delight to God, our rock and our Redeemer. ANITA.
Words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my Redeemer. Amen.
Amen v'amen. When he was 7 years old, just a little boy, Bill Orlin's world turned upside down. That was when the Germans, the Nazis, began their reign of power, and he and his family had to flee. He'll tell you a little bit more about where he was and how it affected him. But the fact that he is now living with us in Houston at the age of, I think he's about to be 88 years old next month. And once he came to the United States, he was a soldier as well, as part of the Korean War conflict. A few days ago, Bill gave an interview with Rosalie Jerome of the Houston Remembrance Association. The Houston Remembrance Association is putting on a 5-part series every Sunday night at 8 o'clock for remembering and connecting with the Holocaust with different themes. This Sunday's theme is Hope in the Face of Isolation. And Ms. Jerome interviewed Bill. It's a 12-minute interview, and he teaches us about who he is and how he got here. And so we're going to share the screen now. We're going to listen to this short interview, about 10, 11 minutes. And then if anybody has questions, Bill is with us tonight. If anybody has some questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll try and manage the time and bring us to some extra learning with Mr. Orlin live. So Brian, are you ready to share your screen? I need to unmute you, I think. Brian has started screen sharing, good.
All right. Hi, Bill. How are you doing?
I am doing as well as I can under the circumstances we are all living under.
Exactly. In fact, that's why I'm calling you. I know we've been talking about what it's like to be all alone in your apartment. Did that bring any remembrance to you in reference to your time in the Holocaust of being alone at any time?
Well, I've been alone since my wife died 22 months ago. I'm in the house by myself. Believe me, it's no fun. I'm sitting in what I call my studio with the books behind me, and you can see a picture of my wife and my kids behind me when we first got married 100 years ago. No, about 47 years ago. And so being alone is no fun. I guarantee you. I've been alone doing the Holocaust Museum as well, but I was a youngster at the time. I was only 7 years old, so I didn't know the difference. And eventually I hooked up with my mother and my grandmother, and we did the best we could, as we do today.
So you were 7 or 8 years old when things went down with the Holocaust of World War II.
I was actually 7 years old, and I had a brother who was 2 years old, because there was a difference of 5 years between us.
Do you remember the big change, or any kind of event that really, made everything, your whole world go upside down, like what we're experiencing now with this pandemic? Do you remember anything, or not really?
I remember everything. I remember the loneliness, the uncertainty, what's going to happen to us, where we slept, what we ate, and what we didn't eat. And mostly we didn't eat. We were lucky to have water that we drank from ditches.
What was that moment in time when you were 7 years old that all of a sudden you were having, dinner somewhere at your house, you were playing in the yard? What was the big event that changed everything?
The big event, I woke up one day and the Germans were in my little town of Brock. It's a little village, consisted of 2,000 people, and 834 were Jewish people. And I found out years later that of the 804 Jewish people, only 30 survived, and I'm one of those 30. We never knew what's going to be from minute to minute, or where we'd end up, or we'd get killed. We were in a place called Ostromazowiecki. They rounded up all the Jews November 11 of 1939 and took them out to the forest and shot them. By that time, we had escaped into Russia.
So do you remember you wanted to bring your dolls, your trucks, your toys?
I had no toys. I had no toys. There was no toys. There was just, I hung on to my mother and my grandmother, my grandfather, because my father had escaped before the advancing Germans. So I had no toys. There was no toys.
So, escape. Here you were in your nice apartment or house. And
no, I'm in a house.
You were in your house?
Yes.
And what happened? After they arrived in your town, you were able to escape the next day. What was the big shift?
No, it took about. We were under German occupation in my town, probably for about 10 days. We were marched to a different town. A small group of us lined up in front of a machine gun, and thought we thought we'd all going to die that afternoon, but we ended up in this other town in Ostromazowiecki. It was a town of about 10,000 people.
And how did you escape? Wasn't there German rule over you? How did you get it?
Well, actually, we were in the German zone of occupation, and at the time we didn't know there was also a Russian zone of occupation, and the Russian government, the German government, made some sort of agreement that any Jews wishing to leave could be expelled into the Soviet Union. And we didn't know at the time what was happening. I found out many, many years later. So we were actually expelled from Poland. We may be the only group of people that was expelled from Poland in 1939 from this Ostrov Mazowiecki place, and there may have been about 300-400 people. So we ended up in Russia, and that's how we survived.
That's amazing.
Yes, it is. I'm lucky to be alive, and I'm lucky to have come to the United States by way of Uzbekistan, Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Germany, Italy, Canada. Finally arrived in the United States in '51. I got here as quickly as I could.
Tell me, so in 51, so 39.
39 to get
so
51. When I got here in 51, I was already 19. When we arrived in Canada, I was 16. So for 9 years, we were typical wandering Jews.
Did you get to go to school? You had to move constantly?
I was in school. I was in school in Russia, and I was in school in Uzbekistan. I was in school in Ukraine, in Poland. I did not go to school. I did join a Hebrew school operated by at that time the Israeli people from Palestine, and then I went to school in a DP camp in Germany. And I learned English. That's where I learned British English in the DP camp.
This is amazing, Bill. So what everyone is experiencing right now with this pandemic, with COVID, and at the time of this interview with you, it's April 5th, 2020, and we don't know here in Houston, the multiplication of the COVID virus is increasing every day. And multiplying, and so we don't know. The laws are changing every day. The rules of if you can go out, if you can't go out, do you wear a mask? Do you don't wear a mask? Everything's changing day by day. Does it bring back memories?
It brings back memories because of the uncertainty of this and the virus. We don't know what's going to happen, who's going to live and who's going to die, and that's the same thing we went through. But you have to stay positive. I'm alone here. I stay positive. I do what I can to keep myself busy. You have to stay positive and try to contact your friend. Be in touch. I call people on the phone. I talk to different people. I talked to Ruth Steinfeld. I spoke to Anna Steinberger the other day. I call different people that I know or that I haven't spoken. I talked to Al Marks and his wife the other day. I want to be in contact with people because the uncertainty could drive you crazy. So
exactly.
You have,
we don't want that. It's been. We're talking about trauma that could be stirred back up again, and that's why I felt I had to do this program and contact all of you guys, see how you're doing. But I also wanted. I felt very strongly. Excuse me, I get emotional with this, but I felt very strongly that you, of all people, of the whole world, you guys know how to speak hope into the hearts and minds of people. And, this particular program that we have you on with is Hope in the Face of Humiliation. I have a question for you. You experienced humiliation during the Holocaust?
Absolutely.
What was the worst scenario for you?
The worst scenario is when the Germans put us in front of a machine gun, and we thought this was the last minutes of our life. There was about a dozen of us lined up in front of this machine gun in a clearing in the forest on a highway between my little town of Brock and Ostrov Mazowiecki. But the main thing we always had is hope. My mother used to tell us, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. And that's where we had hope. We had hope. And
well, thank you.
It's a wonderful thing that we got to the United States, the best country in the world, and I'm honored to have served in the United States Army, part of occupation forces in Germany. I was occupied by the Germans in 1939 at age 7, and then I occupied the Germans 14 years later at age 21.
So you were blessed to have an experience of a healing in some level with that, didn't you?
Say that again?
You received some kind of a healing by getting to do that.
Well, I didn't consider it a healing. Remember, I was representing the United States. I was an ambassador. I had to be on a perfect behavior while I was occupying captured people or vanquished people. But I always felt it that, now it's my turn to be in charge, so to speak. But I did not take advantage of it. I did not. I felt sorry for the average German people because most of the people I dealt with had nothing to do with what happened to me in the war.
I think that's very inspiring that you chose the high road to not make them feel humiliated, the German POWs.
Exactly. Wow. And I'll be honest about it. The German Shotzies helped us be happy and be nice to each other. By the way, Shotzi's a German girl.
Oh, okay. In what way did that, what do you mean by, how did they help you be nice to one another?
They were very entertaining.
Okay, I'll use my imagination for that one.
Use your imagination. Using your imagination is very good. It shows you got a brain.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Bill, and we're going to pray for you that you know that you're not alone, that a lot of people people are calling you regularly, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you're not alone, and I can't wait to see you when all of this pandemic is over so we can visit again, and you can speak at one of our marches again.
I'd be honored as long as I'm alive and I breathe and I feel good. You can count on me anytime. Anytime.
Thank you, Bill.
And thank you for the opportunity.
Get your approval that yes, it's okay to broadcast this talk.
Absolutely, and I want to thank you for the honor of involving me in your fantastic program.
Well, thank you, Bill. We love you so much. We'll let you go.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
God bless.
You see, now, doing this interview, I was not alone.
Well, how inspiring. Thank you so much to Bill, and thank you to Rosalie for providing that interview and inspiring such questions. I'm going to unmute Bill. A couple of questions have come in the chat, and if anyone has a question, please type it into the chat. One of the curious things that somebody asked was, what do you remember about Jewish life in Brock?
What do I remember about Jewish life in Brock? My grandparents were very Orthodox, and I used to go to synagogue with them. When I went with my grandmother, I sat upstairs, looking down through a window to the man downstairs. When I went with my grandfather, I was downstairs with the man. So I used to go with my grandparents a lot. And the first thing the Germans did when they arrived was to burn down all the Jewish homes in the synagogue. And after spending the first night of the burning in the churchyard, the Catholic churchyard, across the street from our house, we immediately went to check on the synagogue. The synagogue was burned down to the ground. It was an old 2-story wooden structure that was built in about 1870. The Jews had been in Brock since 1740. The Jews had been in Poland since 1100. And in 1939, there was 3.5 million Jews in Poland, the largest group of Jews in Europe and the second only largest group to the United States. 90% of the Jews in Poland perished.
90%. Do you remember anything about how you felt when you saw the synagogue that you had participated in with your grandparents, how you felt when you saw that it had burned to the ground.
Very sad, even at age 7, and I couldn't believe that was happened to us into the synagogue. Could not believe it. And by the way, I went back to Brock in 2002, and I went to check on the synagogue, because there was a synagogue that built an apartment complex. I went to the city hall to inquire if there's any Jews there. They said there are no Jews in Brock, none.
You mentioned one of the difficult things that connects today's world with your memory of the Holocaust was the uncertainty. And you mentioned just now, a few moments ago in the interview, you mentioned how you keep contact with a lot of the survivors here in the Jewish community. What about people from the long ago past? Have you been in touch with, gotten to know anybody from your long ago past?
Nobody survived. Like I said, there's only 30 people survived from the whole community of 834. That's according to Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. So no, I don't know anybody from Brock. Nobody.
So 804 people perished.
834 Jewish people were in Brock.
Just 30 were left. And
yes.
What about the rest of your family? You said you were able to stay close to your mother. Were there members of your family who you lost?
Well, my father had a brother who served in the Polish army. He died during the war, and then because his wife died in Treblinka, he knew that, and we were lucky. My father had escaped before the advancing Germans. We hooked up with him when we found him in the Russian zone of occupation. So then we walked to Bialystok for a few days. From there, the Russian authorities sent us to Belarusia, to the city of Minsk, and we settled later on in the city of Bobruisk, where I went to school for the very first time of my life. I was 8 years old. My parents thought I ought to be a musician, so they sent me to music school where I learned to play the violin. Of course, the Germans invaded Russia June 22nd, 1941, and that took care of that. So we had to escape to Russia, to Voronezh. From there, we went to Uzbekistan, where we had nothing to eat. It was pretty bad, pretty bad. My mother and I sometimes would go to the farmer's market and we would steal what we could. Primarily, we used to steal cantaloupes because it was easier to do. She would stand in front of me and she would hand me the cantaloupe. So we ate, and we got bread once a week on a Friday. So I would go stand in line to get the loaf of bread early in the morning, and then my mother would cut it up, and I would climb on the roof of the apartment where we lived because the roof was flat, and we toasted the bread in the sun so it would last longer.
What a memory.
Yeah.
And you mentioned also in the interview, you mentioned how your mother kept on saying, "Don't give up, don't give up." And it connects nicely with one of the other questions that has come in about your own children and how you've taught them, your relationship with them, and how they feel about having a father who's a Holocaust survivor.
Well, for a long time, they didn't know I was a Holocaust survivor because, we came here to the United States. As I said, I was 19. And as they say in Yiddish, was gewesen is nicht tu. And so we wanted to go forward and try to forget the past and be in the future. Go on with the future and make a life for ourselves. Of course, I was drafted into the Army when I was 21 years old. And I am proud to tell you I'm a Korean War veteran. And I served in Germany under 2 different patches. 6th Army patch, 7th Army, 6th Division patch, 7th Army patch.
Yeah.
And
I just learned from our conversations a few days ago that you and my father were both in Germany at the same time.
That's what you said. And by the way, I became a citizen of the United States in Germany in 1954 in the Army, in the IG Farben building. That was the headquarters of the American occupation in the area. And IG Farben was the company that made Zyklon gas to kill people in Auschwitz and other crematoriums.
You know, I have an aside to that story. There was one of the subsidiaries of the company that made Zyklon the gas was the Bayer Corporation in the United States.
Yes.
And I had some connection with the Bayer organization because BAYER, because a summer camp that I was the director of, they wanted to do a mitzvah project for us. They wanted to do a team building and build a arts and science center. And I learned a lot about the Bayer Corporation. They got into trouble with the US government because they refused to take on a government contract with the US military because they said ever since World War II, we do not work with the military. Because the last time we worked with the military, the Germans contracted us to make a gas that killed people. And so they refused to do it. And the CEO of the Bayer company, I forget his name, was among the sponsors. The Bayer Corporation was among the sponsors of a talk that Elie Wiesel was giving. And some people contacted Wiesel and said, you shouldn't speak if their name is on it. And he decided not to come. And the CEO of the Bayer Corporation contacted him and said, please, I want you to speak, and I want to speak and tell you how much our corporation regrets what our past was and how much we're going to do for the future, and here's why we wanted to sponsor this talk. It's a very powerful message. When you talk to students who come to see you at the Holocaust Museum, what's the primary message that you give them?
I tell them to be positive, listen to your parents, listen to your teachers, study, 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 because the more you know, the better off you'll be in your life. Be positive and get along with everybody. Be nice to each other, because you don't know when you're going to need a friend.
Wow. The more you know, what a great message. The more you know, because what brings about prejudice, my opinion, one of the biggest things that brings about prejudice is ignorance.
Correct. I also tell them to read a lot, because I said reading is absolutely important. It's fundamental.
So we know that you have a distinguished. You're about how many times a year before the coronavirus kept us confined? About how many times a year would you give talks to people about your experiences?
As often as people want me to talk, unfortunately, I am now the sole male speaker left. All the other people like Leon Cooper, Walter Case, and Will Finkelman, and a lot of other people have passed away. So I'm the sole male speaker. And of course, I got Ruth Steinfeld that speaks, Chaim Verveer, and Anna Steinberger. That's it. I've spoken at A&M a number of times. I've spoken in Brenham, Texas, and in all that area over there. At one time, there was 1,000 students. I've spoken in synagogues and churches. I've spoken wherever they want me to go, and I gladly do it.
Yes, and there are a few other Ben
Wasserman speaks very rarely now. He lives in the memorial area. I used to be the speaker coordinator for the museum, and he would only speak in his area because he has a wife that he takes care of. And
Yes.
he is older than me, and I spoke to him the other day, and he had the audacity to call me a boy chick.
Well, you called my father a boy chick, and he's
Yes,
only 2
because-
months younger than you.
Okay, then he's a boy chick.
But yeah, Ben has been to our synagogue. One of the questions that came in, have you ever met somebody or spoken to somebody who denies that the Holocaust happened?
I have spoken to, in the audience, they ask me that, or they tell me that. What do you say to people that say that? I said, these people are ignorant. If they want to believe, they want to believe what they can. But if they would just open their eyes and read, and by the way, I tell them, the 6 million Jews we killed, according to German authorities, they kept excellent records. They are the ones that said 6 million, they killed 6 million Jews.
One of our young ladies wrote in, if he's really 88, he looks terrific. But you're not going to be 88 for another month, right?
I'm going to be 88, May 28th.
May 28th. All right. The another message came in, which I think is a beautiful connection, a beautiful way that our world changes. Is somebody wrote, if you need any help, do you need any help? It's like this person is willing to volunteer to do groceries or something for you. So you'll let me know privately through an email or a phone call. And if there's something that you need, I've got some volunteers who are willing to help you.
I appreciate that. I'm lucky to have a daughter who lives in Houston, and she insists on going shopping for me. And I want to give her a hug. She said, don't hug me. Not
Beautiful.
now. And
Now,
so
after
she gets groceries.
After all you've experienced, after all you've seen, and you you called yourself the wandering Jew, and for a prime part of your life, from the age 7 to the age 19, you went from place to place, were very, very unsettled. Plus, you're many years now as a Holocaust survivor and connecting with the other survivors and hearing stories that are even more difficult than yours, stories of torture and stories of starvation. What about your own connection with God? And how do you reconcile a belief in God when you've seen so much difficulty?
My connection to God is somewhat difficult. And I must tell you that. I was with my grandfather when we were being marched from our town to Ostrov Mazowiecki. And when we approached the Tina Road, one of the German soldiers produced a scissor and cut my grandfather's beard. My grandfather was very religious. He wore at that time a big hat and a big black coat. And when he protested, telling the German soldier, I was next to him, when he protested, telling the German soldier, how can you do this to me? I'm a man of God. He slapped him and said to him in German, Gott ist mit uns. God is with us. And he continued protesting, got slapped again till my grandmother persuaded him to be quiet, which he did. They let us go. Later on, he told me, I don't know, I'm a religious man, a man of God, and we're supposed to be God's people, and God did not protect us. I don't know about God. That's what he said. He left an impression on me. I am a member of a Reformed congregation for 50 years. I go there every Friday. I am probably more a traditionalist than a God-fearing person. Does that make sense?
I'm a more of a traditionalist than a God-fearing person. In other words, you connect to being a Jew and doing Jewish things and being part of the Jewish people. And you've got some personal personal questions about God.
That is true. Because of what my grandfather said when I was 7 years old, and I never forgot. Yet, when we arrived in the city of Bobruisk in Belarusia in about November 1939, I was a little boy of 7. It appears that some gentleman died recently, a Jewish man, and an old Jewish man approached me on the street. I'll never forget it. And he said to me in Yiddish, "Du bist a Yid?" And I said, "Yeah, ja, warte bin ich a Yid." So he told me he wants me to come in for a minyan to pray for the Jewish man who had died. And I was at age 7 part of the minyan. I never forgot that.
Wow. Can you remember, and we're going to make this the last question, can you remember some special traditions from your home when you were a child, and even when you were traveling from place to place, that your mother kept? You mentioned going to the synagogue with your grandfather sitting with the men, with your grandmother sitting with the women.
Correct.
What other kind of things do you remember from your young days?
I want you to know that during the war, there was no religion. We were in, like I said, Belarusia, Russia, Uzbekistan, Ukraine. There was no religion in Russia. We were just people. There was no religion. I reconnected with Judaism in the DP camp in Germany. That's when I went to the synagogue. I joined the Zionist organization, and that's when I reconnected with Judaism. I learned Hebrew. I used to go to Cheder in the 30s, where I was learning what they called at that time Lushan Kodesh, the holy language.
The holy tongue.
Holy tongue. But when I came to the DP camp, I learned Hebrew. And when we came to Canada, I joined the Zionist organization, but we did not join a synagogue. I was in Canada for 3 years. And the reason I say wandering Jew, because for 9 years, from the time we left Poland to the time we came to Canada, it was 9 years to the day. We left Poland October 31, 1939, and we arrived in Canada October 31, 1948. I was 6 years old, and it took us 9 years to travel from Poland to Canada.
Wow. Well, I think that your story can go on, and we have a lot more to learn from you. The power and your candor and your honesty about God is difficult to understand. It's difficult to understand how all these horrible things happened. Here we are, that Yisrael, the children of Israel, Yisrael means those who struggle with God. That these questions come over and over again, and that we know that there are good people in the world, and we know there are evil people in the world. And we know that there are a lot of people who could be swayed either way. And that's why it's so important that there are people like you, Mr. Orlin, who speak and speak again about hope, who speak and speak again about goodness. And when I hear that line that you said in German, that you heard from the German soldier who said, "God is with us," that German soldier had to know that he was telling a lie. Because how could anybody in their right mind perpetuate such atrocities and say this is what God says? And so as we continue to wrestle with God, continue to try and understand things that cannot be understood, we continue to listen to the words of your mother, Bill. What was your mother's name?
Actually, Yiddish name was Shana Rivka.
Shana Rivka.
Yeah, but we called her Sonia here.
Shana Rivka, who said, never give up.
Never give up.
Don't give up. Always have hope. And I'll tell you, Bill, you are one of the most positive people I've ever met. that every time I see you, you've got a smile on your face. You lost your wife 22 months ago. You maintain friendships. You maintain closeness. You are like the rest of us, isolated, but you are not alone. And
That's
at the end of
correct.
the interview you had with Rosalie, you said, "Here I am. I'm not alone. I'm talking to you."
That is
So
correct.
know
And
that you're never alone.
I want to
Thank
say,
you, Mr. Bill Orlin. Closing words, Bill?
yes, I do. I want to thank you for inviting me to this wonderful, wonderful occasion. I have been to services for 50 years, but this is the first time I participated in this kind of a service. So I want to thank you very, very much. And I'm honored to be among all these people. And if anybody wants to get some more information on me, you can Google me.
Yes.
You'll find
And you can write to me, and I'll get you his contact information as well.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, and Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Bill. And with that in mind, we do continue to connect with God in our way by praying for healing. And how appropriate it is for us to offer up a healing prayer after we've heard such powerful words from a man who started at 7 years old being kicked around, watching his grandfather be abused, and yet coming to this country, fighting for this country, and surviving to develop a friendship, a chevra, and a community. And so Cantor ANITA is going to sing the Misha Berach, composed by Debbie Friedman. Anyone who has names that have not been read before, please feel free to text them in. And after we read all the names that have been submitted, then we will conclude with the second stanza. ANITA?
Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor habracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imoteinu Mekor habracha Avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We ask for healing for Alice Kaufman, Al Marks, Arnold Farber, Bela Bat Meda Brina, Baruch Ben Bracha, Bina Bat Malka, Brian Goldberg, Carol Curtis, Dale Vine, David Keith, Farida Bat Mazal, Frida Beeler, Jenya Gottfried, Ida Silverstein, Irma Freudenreich, Iris Kelly, Jane Wills, John Bassett, John Miller, Leah Tzipora Bat Shoshana, Lisa Lappin, Marilyn Padveen, Neil Davis, Richard Weisberg, Rosalind Mandel, Rose Lerner, Sandy Kurlander, Sandra Brooks, Sheila Schumann, Stacy Parker, Tom Graff, Misha Natanzon, Ron Feller, Kai Rebus, Ria Nally, Paul Varner, Eddie Martin, Mike Box, Hazel Ash, Bill Dunk, Gary Getz and family, Brian Padveen, Philip Gutman, Norm Bader, Eva Stockett, Louise Pennington, Floyd Truitt, Esther Towns Rash. For all the names that have been said and the names that haven't been said. Jenny Tunitsky, Murray Strauss, an unfortunate victim of the COVID virus. For all those that we said with courage aloud, and all those we had the discretion to say silently in our hearts. For all those for whom we pray and those who have no one to pray for them, may all our prayers be heard. Anita?
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we love. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה המאביקים בששקת הליל, הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. We remember. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. We remember. We remember. We remember.
And so we remember all those who've come before us. We remember especially tonight those who perished in the Holocaust, including those from our families, such as Reva Kramer, Linda Penn, and Morris I. Penn. If anyone else has a memory of a specific victim of the Holocaust who you'd like to type in, feel free to do so. As I also will read off the names from the from our May yard sites, those who passed away from our community in the month of May, including Tommy Munger, Reva Kramer, Ruth Gerhardt, Edith Levy, David Auerbach, Beverly Litt, Evelyn Lovett, David Sayevitz, Lester Nussbaum Sr., Victor Rosen, Jolyn Halpern, Morton Wallach, Erwin Gottfried, also a Holocaust survivor, Philip Salkin, David Rosenberg, William Denbina, Benjamin Hirsch, Sadie Nussbaum, Harold Gordon, Robert Koresh, William Holland, Irving Beigel, Ernest Graff, Cliff Thomas Smith. We also remember those who passed away recently, including Bill Podorzer, the Chrysler, members of the Chrysler family, victims of the Holocaust, and the Eisenstatter family, Jacob Halpern, Rabbi Erwin Halpern, and recently, just last week, someone, a very strong member of our community, a partner in education, Dr. Guy Sconzo, the superintendent for many years of Humble ISD, who was always very supportive of the Jewish community and the Jewish holidays. Also remember Robert Falcone. When we say Kaddish, Kaddish can be a painful thing to say, and it can be a strengthening way to say. I'm also going to add the name of Eddie Michaels, who passed away from COVID, and Frederick Alter, who died in the Holocaust. The word Kaddish means holy. And in fact, in this week's Parsha, Kedoshim, it says, you are to be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. The way we remain holy is by fulfilling mitzvot, by being kind to each other. In fact, part of what it says in the Parsha is to love your neighbor as yourself. And it also says, love the stranger as yourself, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. Elsewhere in the Torah, it says, treat the stranger kindly. Do not wrong the stranger. But in this Parsha, it says, treat the stranger, love the stranger. Love the stranger as yourself. And at the end of that paragraph, it says, Ani Adonai Elohechem, I am the Lord your God. Why do we love the stranger? Because it's a holy thing to do. We also remember Mirta Morquin, who passed away a couple of weeks ago, Randy Crumbine, and Bella Sadal, who passed away 3 weeks ago, and Shirley Nathan, of blessed memory. All these people are ones who've touched someone's life. And this is what Kadosh is and Kaddish is, that we touch others' lives. So we say the Kaddish to thank the Holy One, blessed be He, for bringing dear ones into our lives, for helping make us who we are, and for reminding us to be holy. Just like it says in Leviticus 19, be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy, reminding us what holiness is. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'gala uv'izman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mavarach li'olam u'me'al maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha briachu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechamata. Damiran bi'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol yoshvei tevel. V'yimru amen. May God bring peace to those who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we all say, amen. We have, my friends, simchas to celebrate, happy things that have happened. One of them is that Anita's mother, Irma, turned 103. 103 years old in Fort Worth, and that is a simcha indeed. Anyone else have a simcha that they'd like to type in? Rachel. Rachel Blumen, unmute yourself.
We were in a fashion show.
You were in a fashion show?
For our sewing class.
Hooray! Hooray! Adam Wexler, do you have a simcha?
My birthday.
Today?
Today.
Did you know you share a birthday with a very famous person?
No.
May 1st?
No.
Susan Pollard.
Susan Pollard, oh.
Susan Pollard, yes. Yes. Karen Heller's birthday is this month. Who else has exciting things? We have some visitors who are new to our service, and that's exciting. Leslie Whitcomb's birthday is May 5th. Iris, what's your blessing?
Bill Owen was able to visit us today, and he did a very good interview. I'm glad he's here with us today.
All right.
Mr. Owen, thank you very much for being here.
Very good. Our Cup of Wisdom group did a nice mitzvah today. They delivered lunch to the family time, to the door, the shelter for those who are for people who are being protected from difficult and abusive situations. So all these blessings, we have so many blessings, and my wife, Lauren, is about to graduate college. Woohoo! And graduation is coming up on something. Ryan Bormaster, go ahead and unmute yourself. Or is that Lacey Bormaster? I have a message that
Okay.
Bormaster.
I think I got it unmuted.
Go for it. There you are.
Hi, everybody. Lacey and I wanted to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom. We're so happy to be able to be attending services tonight. I also wanted to mention to everyone that one of the things that we've done, that I've done to my law firm to give back, I want to offer to anybody that might need. We're sitting on cases of ibuprofen hand sanitizer, 70%, the hospital grade stuff, and we've been giving them to fire stations, EMS, first responders. We've been just donating the stock that we have. And I did set a box aside for anyone here that may need as well. It's one of the things that I've done for years as part of my own marketing. And so when all of this hit, I happen to have cases of this in a warehouse. So I just instructed my people to get it out as quickly as possible to the first responders that might need it, that were running short on supplies themselves. And I want to offer, Rabbi, if anyone here is in need, I've got and can arrange to get it to you. So just let the Rabbi know, and he can let me know.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Maybe we can get a box to the temple and have a day when we can safely distribute.
Happy to do it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. So I'm not going to recount them all because I'm not as young as I used to be. But for all these blessings and more, we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'achiyanu v'kiyamanu v'giyanu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, God, ruler of all, who keeps us in life and sustains us, enabling us to reach this joyous time. And we all say, Amen. We have some exciting things coming up. Our president, Jeremy Blumen, with the help, has empowered our past president, Jeff Kaufman, and our vice president, Hai Penn, to put together a number of Zoom activities. One of them upcoming this Tuesday at 12:30. Dr. Susan Pollard, a wonderful, wonderful listener who has been just a great help to me many, many times, is going to be on Zoom at 12:30 this Tuesday, just in an open forum of coping in the time of stress in the coronavirus. People who have questions that they want to remain anonymous can chat them in privately to Susan, or they can email them to me in advance, or email them to Susan in advance. And this is just a nice way to get together and have some stress-free tips. The next night, or is that the next night, or is that? Yeah, that is the next night. Wednesday the 7th. No, Tuesday's the 5th, right? No, Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday's the 5th. Wednesday the 7th, I'm going to do story time. Uplifting, upbeat stories from the Jewish tradition. Welcome to anybody. What else do we have coming up? On the 17th, on Sunday, we're going to have the same schedule, Children's Religious School at 10 o'clock, and the adult torch class and a cup of wisdom meeting as scheduled. We're not going to have Sunday school on the 10th, giving people a day off for Mother's Day, but on Erev Mother's Day, the night before Mother's Day, we're going to have a Havdalah concert. We're going to have a Havdalah concert. A wonderful young musician by the name of Ellie Flyer, who lives in Nashville, is going to be performing. We're going to have Havdalah, songs about Shabbat, songs about motherhood, songs about Havdalah, and just songs about blessing. It's going to be terrific. That is Saturday afternoon, beginning at 5 o'clock and ending with Havdalah. And on the 17th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Cantor Vadim and Yana will be with us for a wonderful end of school year presentation. That is the 17th. That is what religious school, torch, cup of wisdom, children, adults, friends, everybody, to a special concert celebrating education, celebrating the school year, celebrating just being able to be each other. So we're looking forward to that with Cantor Vadim and Yana, and maybe even a surprise or two. And so watch your emails. Just because you think you know what it's going to say, watch your emails and make sure, because we're going to do all kinds of new exciting things. Hi has been my reminder. Hi, or Jeff, did I miss anything? All right. So we conclude, before the final blessing, we conclude with something that was taught to us by Shana Rivka, Bill Orlin's mother, who said, always keep the hope. And that is what the national anthem of Israel has been for us, Hatikva, the hope. Anita?
Kol od balev apnima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ultate mizrach kadima, ayin lezion Sophia. Od lovda tikvatenu, hatikva bashnot alpayim, liotam chavshi be'artzenu, Eretz Zion Yerushalayim, liotam chavshi Be'artzenu, Eretz Zion Yerushalayim.
The hope of 2,000 years, that we will be united as one people, whether we are spread out through all the ages and all the lands, whether we're spread out into our own homes, we're united with that spiritual Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, the city of peace that unites us all. Tonight's Oneg is sponsored by High Penn and Lynn Gordon in memory of Reva Kramer, Morris I. Penn, and Linda Penn. And they've also sponsored our music for the evening. And when we're back in the building, we'll be so happy to be able to experiencing that again together. But Morris, Linda, and Reva all loved coming to Temple Beth Torah, and their legacy continues as High and Lynn continue to be the backbone behind the Holocaust Remembrance Service every year. A final benediction. Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu Ruach HaOlam. Hear our voice, O Lord our God, Spirit of the world. Dear God, so many horrible things have happened in history that we continue to hope. As we remember the brave survivors like Bill Orlin, who is still with us, and like those who have passed away since, we remember that hope. The hope of Hatikva, the hope that his mother, Shana Rivka, taught him to never give up. The hope that as we take the lessons that Bill gives his young students to keep learning, keep reading, to be kind to others, to learn about who people are, that we will rid the world of prejudice and hatred. We'll rid the world of ignorance. We will become truly brothers and sisters in the world. We'll be able to move forward and be blessed. Anita.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Yair Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yosim lecha Shalom, shalom, amen, amen.
God blesses you and protects you. God's face shines upon you and is gracious unto you. God's presence is with you to give you peace. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's desire. We all say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shalom. We'll be back next week at 7 o'clock with Cantor Vadim, and I believe Yana will be with us as well. We'll add another component of music. And thank you, Anita, again, for every year being part of this remembrance. It's very special with your own parents being survivors themselves. You're terrifically part of the Temple Beth Torah history for a long time. Bill, you have been to our synagogue, and now you've been to our Zoom, and we're delighted that you are here. And we've got lots more to learn from others. That we've been lucky to every year have a survivor. There's others that we had been in contact with a man 93 years old named Charles Kurt, and he's hoping to come and see us next year. The computer was a little bit not what he wanted to work with. He said, I want to do it when I can come in person. So whoever has a glass, raise it. Whoever doesn't have a glass, pretend to raise it. Savrei l'chaim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, God, creator of the world, who brings us fruit from the vine. Amen. And I don't always have it, but tonight I happen to have a challah with this beautiful challah cover, which you can probably read. You can read it left to right because it's backwards on the computer screen. Motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. So now I've just unmuted everybody. A time to schmooze. For those who want to stay on, it was a longer service than usual because we had the special program, but we're so glad everyone could be here. Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
everybody.
shalom, everybody.
Yes.
Shalom, everybody.
Shalom, Bill. Good to see you.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Mike
Shabbat shalom,
Collins said,
Bill. Shabbat
thank
shalom.
you, Bill, and he's looking forward to seeing you on Wednesdays.
Hi, Madeline.
Shalom.
Hi, and Lynn.
Sherry,
Shalom.
Hey, Jerry, looks like you got a haircut. I need a haircut. He's kidding.
someone said something that Sherry thought meant we were talking to her.
Thank you, Bill.
Hello, hi.
Hello, Jerry.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you for coming from Katy.
Yeah. Hey, the traffic wasn't too bad tonight, I guess. No, traffic was not as bad as usual.
Traffic.
Thank you for the invitation to attend, hi.
I miss traffic.
Good, I'm glad you came.
Shabbat shalom,
Anita?
everyone.
Thanks, Jerry. Good to see you. Do my best to
You
your
too.
brothers and sister-in-law.
Anita, you were wonderful. Just wonderful.
All right. Well, Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, Brian. Thank you for your technical help.
You're welcome. Wasn't too difficult.
It was for me.
I'm glad I get out.
Actually, my computer, whenever I try and share a screen, it screws up.
Yeah. No, it worked out well. I think was it?
Oh, it
I
did.
assume it was good for everybody else.
Y'all could hear Bill's interview well, couldn't you?
Yes, it was good.
I see somebody whose nameplate says Art. I don't think we've met. Hi, Art.
Hi, how are you, Rabbi?
Good. Good. Welcome.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. You get our emails?
All right, I'm gonna head out.
All right.
Shabbat shalom.
Beautiful service.
A nice evening. A nice evening. All right, friends, we're going to turn off.
All right.
And
Bye,
the
everybody.
meeting is done. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Bye-bye.